And welcome back to Superior Sunrise. I'm Mark Oppold, getting closer to selling some cattle today. Joining me, Dr. Glynn Tonsor, professor of ag economics at K-State University. And doctor, this cattle market, we say we're going to sell some cattle here in a minute, but our friends at Cattle Facts gave a pretty positive outlook at the NCBA convention last week. I wanted to get your thoughts. So you've seen all those numbers and their outlook. How does it match with yours?
Yeah, so the short summary is I'm in agreement. So yes, Cattle Facts presented a very positive cattle outlook from a price selling perspective down in Houston. And many analysts, myself included, would agree with the fundamentals that underlie that. For our listeners, I think it's useful to start from a very, very big picture and recognize that the supply side of that story is supportive. So we have fewer mama cows in the industry than we did 2 years ago. That pretty much guarantees we have fewer animals coming through for beef production, and that's expected to continue as we progress, not just through 2022, but into 2023. But what gets lost also, Mark, and it's equally important, is we have very strong demand for beef as well. So domestic and foreign demand for U.S. beef is quite astronomical. It's very good. I don't know the right adjective for that is, but USMEF actually pegs the export value of steers in 2021 at over $400. And that would account to about 22% of the value of steers. So that's a big number. The demand information I keep here at K-State, part of it's supported by the Meat Demand Monitor Project. It's beef and pork checkoff supported effort. Says domestic beef demand, both through grocery stores and restaurants, is quite strong as well. So it doesn't matter if we're talking domestic or foreign, demand is strong. If you add that with slowly eroding supplies, all of those are supportive of higher cattle prices.
If we can break that down a little bit with the cattle we're going to sell here in a minute. And breeding stock, is there any separation in the outlook when you talk about breeding stock or feeder cattle or other mama cows, cow calves prices here, doctor?
Yeah, so I'll give some numbers in a second, some specific forecasts, but I think it's important to remember there's a lot of regional variation, specifically the cow calf side of things. So the January cattle inventory report, which again, Cattle Facts referenced heavily in Houston, noted the herd shrinking nationally, but then also comments about individual states. So for example, for the country as a whole, we have 2% fewer beef cows we had a year ago. That matches here in Kansas. But if you go to say South Dakota, Montana, or Missouri, there was a much larger decline. Why is that relevant? Is, there's drought pressures and forage costs. There's a lot of reasons we've had those different regional changes, but the interest in buying replacements and therefore the demand side support for higher replacement values varies regionally as well. So keep that context in mind here. I anticipate over the next 24 months for sure that there's going to be more and more upward pressure on replacement heifers as we kind of turn the corner and we start rebuilding the herd. We'll see higher replacement values.
Yeah. Wow. Now, I noticed we come on the air here this morning that feeder cattle, for example, roughly that May to August contract back to back, that's about a $10 spread. I don't watch that as much every day, but is that a normal spread for early or mid-February?
So it's not necessarily uncommon. I mean, you can have a wide spread. It may be a little bigger than normal, but keep in mind the cattle themselves are worth more than normal. So there's more dollars available to spread if you like. And part of that is the supply story is sort of front loaded here in 2022. So supply side support for cattle prices is greater as we progress and get closer to Labor Day. And certainly after that, that's part of what you're seeing there. To plug another resource for those that might be in the grass business, those that might be interested in buying cattle soon and then selling them around Labor Day, I encourage use of beefbasis.com is a website where you can get price projections. But specific to that would be the projected value of gain. So how much more those animals are going to be worth during that 4 to 6 month grazing period. And at the moment, those projections are quite strong. And it reflects that larger, the stronger support for prices is expected around Labor Day. So it's an astute observation of yours. I don't know if I'd say it's incredibly atypical, but understanding why that's occurring because of the front loading of supplies this year is pretty important.
And before we let you go this morning, K-State has a lot of great information for our cattlemen and cattle women here. Maybe just give us a website if you have one that they can go to get a lot of information.
Sure. So the Ag Econ department here, our main extension website is agmanager.info, just like it sounds. I usually joke you could Google bald-headed economist and find me as well. But you will find our information there. All the talks I give, the PDFs of those slides and the like are there. Decision tools for what you could pay for replacement heifer, those kind of things are there. So I encourage producers, that's why we build them. Go to that website, download them, make use of them.
Very good. I don't do hair jokes myself anymore, though. I probably going to be using that website or that email myself someday. Doctor, always good to visit with you, and great to have all this great news as we begin to sell cattle here at Superior. So we'll look forward to our next visit. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
You bet. Dr. Glynn Tonsor from Kansas State University. Callie is back, and we are getting closer to selling cattle today. And we'll be right back. More Superior Sunrise right after this.